Hey, what's up, guys? It's Sincerely Nikki. Back with another post. No, really, I just kind of wanted to go over a few things regarding like medications, particularly for egg retrieval. It seems like it's just ridiculous. It is the cost is just crazy. Um, in my experiences with that, um, I've 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 noticed that I've noticed that I've noticed a few things. So I'm just kind of going to go over things that I would suggest that you guys do that I've done. Number one, number one is double check, triple check, and quadruple check your insurance to make sure that they do not cover your medications, okay? So, and don't assume that just because your insurance doesn't approve of the in vitro itself, that it's not going to improve your medications, because that may or may not be true. They're two separate entities usually. I know sometimes they, we had United Healthcare, and then now we have a separate type of insurance, and then sometimes they kind of combine the two, but even then you still want to call for your medications to see if they may possibly approve of it, because number one reason a lot of these meds are for other reasons besides in vitro. Like I know the human growth hormones medications and stuff like that, they're for cancer, they're for other things, they're for other reasons besides just IVF, stems. So that's number one. Check your insurance, okay? Call, let your prescriptions roll in, and have them to check your insurance to see, if they'll approve. So yeah, that's my number one for sure. Number two, I would suggest that you get a list of your medications, particularly the retrieval meds, and you call around. I literally created a spreadsheet. Okay, I'm an accountant, so all day long I create spreadsheets for everything. I mean everything. But I created one, a list of all my retrieval medications. I separated it from, especially when it gets really expensive. I separated my retrieval medications from my transfer medications and was like, okay, look, I'll get my transfer medications first things first. I'll get that once I'm at that point. What if I never get to that point? Then why am I going to go and buy all these meds? Yeah, no. So I went and got my retrieval meds. I put them on my list, put a lot of the pharmacies that I was planning to call side by side, and literally put the price of each one below for each medication. For example, Gunnel. I called several places that were known to be cheaper, blah, 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 blah. I did that, and I got a list of all of those places, okay? Then eventually I found out that they approved of my medications. So I turned around and was, oh my God, amazingly, I was just so freaking happy when I found that out. But even then, I still listed those three, which my insurance, it works like this. The $200, they still caused me to have to pay a $200 copay for each really, really expensive med, which were the main three, which for me were the Cetratide, which stops you from ovulating, the Gonal, and then the Menopur. Those three were $200 copay, and for whatever amount, I'm sorry, my baby, for whatever amount that the doctor prescribed me for that month, up to the max. So that's another point. Okay, so that was that. I paid the $200, blah blah. The next thing I found out, another pointer is, if your doctor prescribes you, okay, so Dr. Kiltz at CNY Fertility is known for prescribing you medications and giving you like 3 refills for it, which is good, right? So, for example, he said, okay, I'm going to give you XYZ meds, and for 10 to 14 days. My gonal, for example. Okay. Prescribed all of that for me. And then I was like, okay, so when I found out my insurance pays a $200 copay, I called them and said, well, how much can I order before it's not considered, or before I have to pay another copay, or my insurance doesn't approve it for the month, or whatever the case may be, right? And he told me, well, let's try it. So he went in and, what my doctor prescribed me, the insurance approved. And I was like, well, what if I can get 2 or 3 more? I want to maximize the price, the quantity for the same copay. You get what I mean? So he's like, okay, so let's try 12 days. Let's try 14 days worth. It approved all the way up to 15 days. So I was just like, let's get the max. Let's go for it. You know what I mean? And so do that too, if you can, especially if you end up having a copay. You know what I mean? But if your insurance approves of a certain amount and you have some type of copay, I would say let's maximize the quantity amount that I can get for that same copay price. Okay, so that's another pointer. Yeah, shop around. A lot of people suggest and recommend, what is that, overseas IVF place, and I do recommend them. I have not had to use them because my insurance approved it, but from what I see, a lot of women have experienced great things with them. But is it IVFmeds.com? There we go. And I believe it's UK or I don't know, but it's definitely a European place. Specialty pharmacy. But yeah, check them out, IVFmeds.com. It seems like a lot of women did not complain of them. They had great things to say. I think the main thing is just if you have any kind of medications that have to be cooled, or not really time sensitivity issues with that, but just anything related to, I guess, the storage or storing the meds. Yeah, definitely want to make sure that they are able to accommodate that, which I'm not sure of. So I can't say anything about that because, for example, I think is the gonal that has to be cold. So, if it's coming from overseas and if it sits for a week, or I don't know the process, but do your research on that. Okay, that's the only thing I recommend on that. What else? Some of these medications, these are just a whole bunch of just various things regarding medications, not just necessarily to save money, but also be careful with time sensitivity on some of these meds. I have to take HCG-LH, which is kind of somewhat similar to Menopur. It's the FSH medication, which Menopur is too, I believe. Don't quote me on it. But it's similar, okay? And I'm taking that in place of this second cycle that I'm doing. I'm taking that in place of the Menopur. Do not pay attention to that, because a lot of these medicines are compounded medications. Compounded meaning they are pre-made, so you don't have to mix them like you normally have to mix like your gonal and things like that. You don't have to mix those medications. So if they're compounded, then they cost more. Or do they cost more? No, they don't really cost more, but they're time sensitive because they're already mixed. So they usually want you to finish it in 21 days or a couple of months, or just varies. So make sure, because when I ordered my medication from my specialty pharmacy through my insurance, they wanted me to, no, they were just like, hey, we have a batch made and you can just use that batch. So we're going to send that to you. And I didn't know any better. I was like, okay, I guess, right? So then when it got here, it was just like, oh, okay, well, you have 12 days remaining to use. It gave me a date that I had to use it by. And I'm like, are you kidding me? It was within a 21-day time frame. After they compound it all together, I think you have to, that's my kids. I think you have to use it after X amount of weeks, And I'm like, I wish I would have known this. I wouldn't have ordered it until I really needed it. You know what I mean? Okay, I'll be back. So yeah, just pay attention to the time sensitivity on that medication, because I was really surprised, and I ended up having to buy another one. And then so for this next cycle, I'm gonna have to buy another one because, again, Yeah. And then here's another thing: when you puncture some of these medications, then the time frame to use it, same situation. So yeah, just pay attention to all of that. Okay. Trying to think of anything else. Yeah, try the IVF med place. I'm trying to think of anything. Integrity, especially if you're going through CNY, the lady knew how to work her jelly, okay? And when I say work her jelly, she worked her jelly for my medication being approved by my insurance. So some of these people are like pros because they deal with a higher amount of people, patients, and so they're familiar with what to do and how to, maneuver around certain things. So that's another thing. So try to go with someone, for example, call Integrity. I suggest Integrity as a number two. If you try IVF meds, not for the price, but I mean, as far as like getting your insurance to approve it, check them out first. Try to see if some of those contacts there can. I don't really have anyone in particular that I recommend because everybody I spoke to were good. But I noticed a lot of other places that I called, it just seems like they were just like, yeah, your insurance just doesn't approve it. And, we just don't know. And I was just like, okay, whatever. But yeah, Integrity really did the damn thing. I don't know what was the difference. I really don't know. I mean, I don't know. But anyway, that was something. Here's another thing. I'm trying to give you an experience that I had too with trying to think what was it. I just remember I had a problem. Okay. Integrity. Yeah. I'm trying to think why though. Okay, so the medication that I ordered, which I don't remember which one it was, Cetroside or something, I don't know. It was something. One of my meds that I ordered. They originally approved it, and then turned around, and a few weeks later, a month later or so, said no, we can't approve it because the insurance. What did they say? I don't remember now. But for whatever reason, they didn't approve it. I don't remember why. But anyway, don't if they don't approve of something that they approved of before for whatever reason, don't be so easy to just let them make decisions and call it a day is what I'm trying to say in so many words because I don't remember the reason and the details. I totally forgot. But I got on the phone. I called my insurance, my card insurance, pharmaceutical specialty pharmacy insurance. And I said, hey, look, I'm not going for it. You guys approved of it XYZ days ago. For whatever reason, nothing has changed. My insurance hasn't changed. It's been more than 30 days. I don't understand why you're not approving it at this point. So I gave her, she asked for information. Lady looked at it, put me on hold for a while, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not having it. It was like literally a few days before I was gonna go to start my second retrieval, which I ended up canceling because of the ovarian cyst that I have and etc. But yeah, so they told me to hold and got back on and said, okay, yeah, you're right. We're going to go ahead and approve your insurance. Approve of this medication again. So, yeah, I'm just saying, just like be your own advocate for not only just like the doctors and all of that stuff, but be your own advocate when it comes to your medications and making sure you know that meds, some of these medications get approved, you know? So that's that. Number 5 suggestion I also would recommend is to the retrieval. I'm trying to think. It was the retrieval and the transfer. The medications for. I'm trying to think of what was I going to tell you guys. Oh, there it is. Just because they don't approve of one medication doesn't mean that they're not going to approve of the other. Chances are, I try everything. Do you hear me? Gonal, try Menopur by itself. Try, like really, literally try to push these medications separately. Because I know for sure, like a lot of my antibiotics, all of the main meds that you would just probably get anyway, that you could get prednisone is a steroid. A lot of these medications, particularly the transfer meds, are approved by your insurance. Okay, so try to submit as much as you can through your insurance and see what is accepted and what's not. And then that way you kind of have an idea of what you can go for and what you need to do next. Another thing too, another pointer is some of these meds have what do they call them? Not necessarily generic brands, but maybe an older brand that they decided to, make way with and try some type of new one. For example, like Follistim and Gonal. Those are the same. So if you can get your doctor approved of Follistim, then maybe it's cheaper. And maybe you can go through, like, for example, IVF meds. Follistim is a lot cheaper. Follistim is a lot cheaper. Some of the pharmacies here in America still makes Follistim, but so you can call and check on that. I know Menopur has a can't think of it. I'm sure the pros, who if they are on here, they will know exactly what I'm saying. But you probably could even Google it. But there's a an alternative for Menopur as well, and there's also an alternative for the Cetrotide, which is Ganirelix or something like that, which I believe they still use. But yeah, see if some of those medications can be used. From my understanding, Follistim is good for the older women anyway, so that's another thing. Be your own advocate when it comes to sometimes what your doctor tells you. Sometimes some of these meds are like really strong, or sometimes they're like, they may make you sick. Something like, tell them, hey, is there anything else I could take besides this? Be your own advocate. You know what you're going through. It's your body. You know what I'm saying? Another thing is I was kind of doing so much research and I kind of stumbled upon Dr. not Share or whatever you call it, but it was another one who's really popular. And he was saying that the HCG, so this is probably going to be my last part, and I think I'll end with this, but he was saying that the HCG LH medication, which is known as a trigger, in place of like the Neupogen, I believe, and the Lupron and things like that, it is better for older women too, or women who have low AMH. For a lot of reasons, but I do believe that, also Menopur, so I don't forget, Menopur is strong for older women too. So they said either use a lower dosage of the Menopur or low AMH women, not necessarily older women. And then, like a 75, IU or whatever, versus 150. Like, this is really strong. So, they said HCG-LH is really, really good for low MH people as well, because it's not as, like, it doesn't cook your eggs, from my understanding, as much as the Menopur does. So that's that. I didn't want to forget that. But going back to the Lupron, when you take those trigger shots to stop you and to prevent you from ovulating for the next 48 hours or 36 hours, the Lupron completely halts your eggs from growing any further, which is not good when you have low MH, or if you have like eggs that may be immature and you still may possibly think pushing those little last few eggs, and you want them to go from like a 13 or 15 millimeter egg to like a 18 or something that's to maturity, basically, right? HCG-LH is not HCG-LH, HCG, triggering with HCG, like for example 10,000 units of that, is way better because it does not halt the eggs from growing and they can continue to grow. So Dr. Kills was going to put me on the Lupron, and I think he just knew because I originally had Lupron at home. He was just like, yeah, we'll just use that, we'll just trigger with that again. I got off the phone. I thought about it after I did my research. I called back to the nurse at CNY, and I was like, you know what? I really want to try this Lupron not Lupron. I really want to try the HCG triggering with that this go round because I heard, and I told her what I heard, and she was like, yeah, I don't understand why he put that there. She was like, well, maybe you said you already had it, and I was like, yeah, I think so too. She was like, but no, I really would. I suggest that too, especially for women with low MH, and you really are have eggs that barely matures like they should, or they're all scattered, et cetera, et cetera. She was saying that that's good for that. So be your own advocate. You know, I can't stress that enough. I can't stress that enough. And I mean, it's not necessarily just at CNY. Women always say, oh, if you go to CNY, you have to be your own advocate. No, you have to be your own advocate everywhere. Everywhere. And I'm going to leave it at that until I post again the next few days. But yeah, I can't stress that enough to you guys. All right. Yeah. Till next time. Bye.